Hello and welcome to the Fatpants podcast. You can all call me Pants, canonical ranch hater.
And I'm Slacky, King of Ranch, Lord of the Hidden Valley.
What lies ahead is the final battleground for all food disputes, big and small. No matter the state, the culture, or the country, there's one thing that everyone understands, and that is Fatpants.
Thanks to everyone who tuned in for episode 1. We're just a couple of idiots who argue about food a lot, and we're very humbled that you tuned in and listened.
Yeah, thank you. The first thing I would like to bring up is what we ended the last episode with. We teased the topic of red velvet cake, and I want to come into this hot with the fact that red velvet cake is terrible. It's garbage. It tastes bad. It looks not great. It's trendy for no reason. Where do you stand on this controversial take?
I have a lot of information about red velvet. I think what you think about red velvet is trash is vastly different than what red velvet was. It's has a lot of history in it. It has a lot of, just it's historical. I know I just kind of said that twice, but it's a great cake for what it is. Velvet doesn't necessarily it describes the texture of the cake. Red is a byproduct of what happens to the cake when it's
Okay.
made. Uh, Cake back in the 1800s was trash. It was bread with fruit and nuts in it.
Which
And
is on paper not the worst thing.
yeah, it's not the worst thing, but it wasn't the best thing either. And what happened was, bakers back in the day decided they were going to use cocoa powder and help, with the cake making process. And the byproduct of that is it made the coarse flour of the time break down and it made it more rich and smooth texture of cake, which is where we get the idea of velvet.
Okay,
It's a
that makes
velvety
sense.
cake versus a like what you would consider a coffee cake, real crumbly and just kind of like the only thing it's good for is dunking in coffee.
It's a textural thing. It's not
Yes.
it's not just like some fancy schmoozy name to dupe idiots.
No, like the two major cakes back in like the 1800s was devil's food cake, which was also made from cocoa powder, and
Delicious.
red velvet cake. And because they were a byproduct of what cocoa powder is.
Mm-hmm.
It has also forms a chemical reaction with the acid, and that's where the red color comes from. That's why it was called red velvet.
Okay, so my current knowledge pool of cake has gone up by about 600% in the last 40 seconds.
I have more. I have more.
I want to delve into that, but I want it to be known and understood that my understanding of red velvet cake is that it's just bad chocolate cake. So I'm willing to hear you out on this stance. And I'm actually like genuinely interested in where I also want to know where all this cake knowledge is coming from. Like, did you look this up or do you just have this locked in the
No,
chamber?
this is not for me. The only knowledge I have is sports figures and Destiny 2 builds.
Okay, I
All of
needed
this
to
all
know
of
if
this
this was like a slacky quirk where it's like I'm super into cake history. I'd
no,
be like,
no, no,
okay, I'm
no.
on board with that.
I married the one who is knowledgeable in all things baking. She's the scientist. She's the one feeding me all this information. So shout out to Killer for all this. Also, when it comes to red velvet in the 1940s, World War II time, they started rationing things like sugar and butter, and it kind of red velvet kind of came back in vogue because they could start using things like cocoa powder again. And that's where they started the red velvet kind of made a resurgence. Uh,
Okay.
it also kind of gave a feel like the red cake kind of gave it kind of a fancy feel where it was like, hey, we're having something nice tonight. We're having red cake,
Mm-hmm.
because it was wartime. They needed something to kind of look forward to. I can't imagine being in a time where like literally almost the entire country is across the sea fighting a war. Where everybody back home is like, we can't use sugar and butter, because we got to save it for all the soldiers. And so this is where they kind of came up with red velvet again. They also started using things, and you're gonna love this, Pants. beet juice.
Beet juice in so beet juice in things that beets don't belong in is completely fine. Like beetroot, like beet sugar is super
Mhm.
common. I take a lot of different supplements for like for my gym going activities,
Yeah.
and a lot of the different supplements, especially like if you look at like vegan ones or some other like alternates to your main like your main staples, beet like beet juice and beetroot sugar and stuff like that is a really common ingredient.
Yes. It's also you also see a lot of red velvet cake recipes that were made or, back in the 1940s still have beet juice as an ingredient to use. It made the red color, obviously, but it also made the cake soft, more of that velvety texture that everybody's kind of looking for in a cake. The red color isn't necessarily important to the flavor of the cake. It's more of a byproduct of the ingredients that were used. Now, that being
Sure.
said, if you see a red velvet cookie,
Mm-hmm.
that's not true red velvet. That's just some janky ass chocolate chip cookie that they dyed red and presented it to you and said this is red velvet. Red velvet is a cake.
What if it's like
It's not a
what
it's
if
not
it's
a
like one of
cookie. It's not a,
those big like puffy cookie cakes? Is that gonna
maybe
buy?
maybe a cookie cake to me is just a giant chocolate chip cookie. That's when I think of a cookie cake. Like when you go to the mall, the cookie place at the mall, and they serve the giant, you know,
I'm on board with
wagon
giant
wheel
cookie
size,
cakes.
wagon
Um,
wheel size cookie cakes. You know?
yeah, I'm on board with that. Like me, completely unrelated to the red velvet, I'm on board with
Yeah.
giant cookie cake
Oh, of
cookies.
course. See, I'm a byproduct. I'm a child of the '80s and the '90s. Those things were huge back then. Like the cookie cake in the mall. Like you had to
Mm-hmm.
get like a giant pizza pie slice cookie, with the icing on it too.
Yeah, the
It
infamous Pazuki, if you
That's it.
will.
Well, that's a little different. So here, for like where I live, we have restaurants that have those, but it's more of a giant, like what you mentioned, a puffed cookie, but it's like in a skillet. It's like a giant. It's not really giant. It's more like I don't know, maybe the size of like a clock.
Would you say it's
You
giant
know?
compared to like a standard cookie?
Yes, it would be giant compared to
Okay.
a standard cookie. Yes, but I mean, it's maybe like maybe like 6 to 8 inches in diameter,
Okay.
and it's put in a skillet and so it's warm and they throw a scoop of vanilla ice cream on top and they dump hot fudge all over it. It's amazing. It's really good.
Yeah, see, I'm on board with that. I do want to we're going to come back to this in 2 seconds. But what is like do you know offhand, and if you don't it's fine. We can just ignore this topic. Just why today's red velvet is so shit, because compared to what you explained to me, old red velvet great. Today's red
Mhm.
velvet is just bad.
What I would describe today's red velvet as lazy. It's white cake or yellow cake that somebody has put red food coloring in. And
Okay. I
and,
see, I
and,
always thought it was
and
chocolate cake that just had red food dye in it.
well, it's chocolate, like
Or is
like
it
what we
just
mentioned.
chocolate like in flavor?
It's kind of, I guess, chocolate in flavor.
Okay.
I mean, red velvet isn't necessarily chocolate. It's
Mhm.
a byproduct of them using cocoa powder. Like in the 1800s and the 1940s, they used cocoa powder because that's what they had available to them. So it was a semi-chocolate cake. Whereas red velvet today, I feel like is people just dressing up either a white, yellow, or whatever flavor cake you have, and then put red food coloring in it and saying it's red velvet.
Okay, that makes sense
It's
to
not
me.
true red velvet. It's lazy red velvet.
Sure.
It's like, we'll trick the consumers into thinking it's red velvet just by putting red food coloring in it. Do
Yeah,
you think we're
that
idiots?
makes
No,
sense to me.
we're not. We're
I
not
might be.
clowns.
I might be. But before we abandon this topic, what is your final stance on whether or not red velvet is garbage?
Red velvet is
It's
not.
not garbage. I'm looking at like I want like a binary yes no.
It depends on what you're talking about. I mean,
Like if you were to go to the store right
technicalities.
now and buy a box of red velvet cake mix and have your wife make it for you.
See, you're the. I can tell where you're wrong. The reason you're wrong is my wife would never be caught dead buying a box cake.
But hear me
She would
out.
make it from scratch
But
herself.
this is the control. Like you
Right.
have,
Yeah.
so I'm in the same boat. I have a fiance who is exceedingly more competent than me in the kitchen.
100%.
And to offer the control mechanism of saying, here is a highly skilled person, but give them a box mix. If they were to do it the best they could possibly do with a present day commercial red velvet, would it be bad?
See, now you're trying to trick me into saying
Okay,
with
now
something that
and this
might
no, so hold on. I don't
see where
want
I'm going here,
I
right?
don't yeah, I don't want
I don't wanna get you in trouble either,
this
Pants.
isn't entrapment. I want it to be known this is not entrapment. Would the product that is provided be not a negative reflection on the skill and capacity of your wife or my fiance, but
Asterisk.
as a product in and of itself, would it be bad?
As a product in and of itself, I would say yes, it would be bad. I wouldn't say it would be bad, it would
And
be
that's it. Case
subpar.
closed. Yes, Slacky said it himself. Anything his wife makes, if it's red velvet, bad. Um,
She would take my side in a heartbeat, you know
and
that.
that's fine. I think everyone understands that I'm contrary to the fact I said it is not entrapment. This is entrapment. You are going to prison.
Killer, I'm sorry. Please don't be mad at me. It's Pants' fault.
It is my fault. I take full responsibility. But as long as we agree that it is not a reflection of her work, it is simply the product being made is bad.
Uh, Product today, I would say red velvet today is bad. I would say if you got a hold of a recipe from the 1940s and made red velvet cake, if you got Katie to make it for you, I think you
Hmm.
would absolutely love it. I want to segue for one more topic. And since we're
Yeah,
talking about cake, I need your opinion on this. This is a very controversial opinion in the Slacky Killer household. What is your opinion on icing? Are you a buttercream
I'll eat literally
icing
any icing that's put in front of me.
or wait, here's your press? I need a preference though.
Okay,
Is it
okay.
the buttercream icing? Let me get this through. That's the buttercream icing, the thick, the thick icing, or
Hmm.
the whipped, very thin, kind of very fluffy type of icing, if you know what I'm talking
So
about.
it is cake dependent. So
Right.
if I have something that has a really aggressive taste to it, like a carrot cake or a spice cake, I want a really thick frosting that's not overly sweet. So something like a buttercream frosting or a cream cheese frosting.
Mhm.
But if I have like a very light flavored cake, like just a regular vanilla sponge cake, like where
Mhm.
it's just kind of hanging out, it's just texture to taste. A little bit sweeter whipped icing or frosting, whatever you want to use, would be my preference. It it,
See,
it boils down to two different cakes. One is a
okay,
heartier cake, one is a soft, like a softer, lighter, sweet treat.
that makes sense. Uh, I am of the opinion, the controversial opinion in my household, that I'm a cake over icing person. I
Okay.
prefer the cake and less icing, whereas wifey is just slather it in as much icing as you can and give me the smallest amount of cake you can. She is a all icing, no cake person. I am an all cake, no icing person.
I'm team Slacky on this one.
Okay.
I want more cake than icing, but also like I want a lot of icing. In turn, want a lot of cake.
You just want it all.
Yes, I would like my cake and to eat it as well.
Well, true. I also think I agree with you. I think like a lighter cake, like an angel food
Mhm.
with not so much like Cool Whip, but like a lightly whipped icing and
Sure.
strawberries.
Yeah, you
Fantastic. I
can't beat
love
that.
that.
That's just a nice fresh flavor.
Yes.
Okay, so enough about big cakes. Let's shift focus to some small cakes. How do you feel about Little Debbie cakes?
So when you're talking Little Debbie snack cakes, what's the
Mhm.
one that comes to your mind?
So the second someone says Little Debbie snack cakes, my brain immediately goes to zebra cakes.
Zebra cakes are so good.
I think there are a lot of good Little Debbie products, and just snack cakes in general.
Mhm.
But zebra cakes in all forms are are not to be matched by basically anything else. Nobody makes a cake better in terms of like little cakes.
Swiss rolls are also
Swiss rolls are
top
good.
tier for me. I love Swiss rolls. These strawberry shortcake rolls I feel are
Okay.
really good. I don't know if you've seen those. They're kind of like what we mentioned before with the It's got like
They're just like it's just like a Swiss roll, but it's got like jelly in it, right?
strawberry, yeah, like a strawberry kind of
Yeah.
jelly jam, whatever you want to call it. Those are
I'm a
really good.
big fan of the like the peanut butter wafers that are dipped in chocolate. I know it's not a cake. Nobody comment be like, "Oh, it's not a cake." I don't care.
Not a cake.
It's
It's not
wafer
a
and
cake,
peanut
pants.
butter. It's delicious though. I don't care what it is. The same thing goes mini muffins, not cake. Little bites are really good. I think Little Debbie makes little bites. I'm not sure if they do. And like the handheld pies, untoppable.
They're called Nutty Buddies. The
Oh,
little
well,
peanut butter things.
yeah, okay.
Those are really good. I used to. Did you ever used to like when you were a kid like pick them apart?
Yeah, you break them into
Like
layers.
yeah.
And yeah, because now you have what was one or two. So like I'm the youngest, so 9 times out of 10, if Nutty Buddies were in the house, they come in little sleeves of two. I'm only
Hmm.
getting one. Getting one, breaking it into five or whatever, however many layers it is. I've raised the entire number of Nutty Buddies that I've had, exponentially so.
Star Crunch, also fantastic Little Debbie product.
Star Crunch, it's like a caramel puff rice coated in chocolate, right?
It looks terrible.
Yeah,
It
it's the
tastes
one that looks
delicious.
like it looks like regurgitated suet.
Yes.
Um,
It looks really weird.
yeah, now that I'm
Yeah, you're
thinking
right.
about it, disgusting to look at. Really good though. Really
It's
good.
super tasty. It's probably my favorite Little Debbie product is the Star Crunch. I used to go through like when I was a fat kid
Hmm.
in the 90s, I used to go through like a box, like maybe in a day because
Sure.
I could.
I I don't know off the top of my head, and I don't have the website open in front of me. Are Cosmic Brownies a Little Debbie product?
You are 100% correct. That is number 2 on the list.
Cosmic Brownies are that like in high school, you could like you were a kingpin
Yes.
of like an internal school wide quote unquote drug ring
Mm,
if you came prepared and like locked and loaded with cosmic brownies, because there's nothing better than the paste, that like the chocolate paste. It's not even fudge, it's chocolate spackle and the little cosmic bits on the
yep.
top. I don't know a single person who's never just picked the ball off one by one to again
Yep.
elongate the process of enjoying a cosmic brownie. Anyone who comes at me with, "Oh, the ones with nuts on them are better," no, they're not. They're
No,
good.
I don't even know I
Yeah,
didn't know they had ones with
they're
nuts.
good. They look a lot nicer, but it's a cosmic brownie with no fun. It's the
No.
person who the kid in like middle school who wore a polo shirt every day, that kid showed up with the cosmic brownie that had little hunks of, I think, walnut,
Probably.
instead of the cosmic bits. And it's just like, ah, yes, just what every brownie needs, little bits of cardboard.
If you had a cosmic brownie like in elementary
Hmm.
school, you could trade it for anything you ever
Yeah,
wanted.
guns,
Like
money,
you could
people,
steal
homework.
you could be like, "Hey, give me your entire Lunchable," and I'm talking about the one with the Capri Sun
Yeah,
and the Oreo cookie in it. Just give it to me. I'll give you this cosmic brownie, and the other kid would trade it in a
yeah,
heartbeat.
cosmic
They're
brownie
they're.
is a big piece of leverage, especially for a child to have.
Let me ask you your opinion on
Mhm.
something real quick. This is going to be a little tangent. Your opinion on you just said you didn't like nuts, especially on the cosmic brownie. Are you a nuts in brownies? Like if Katie's making a tray of
Yeah,
brownies or whatever,
I'm all for it.
if she puts nuts in
Mhm.
them, are you okay with
Yeah,
that?
that's fine. I don't have like a nut allergy or anything like that. I like a little bit of like walnut, especially walnut, in brownies. There's some people in the family that have nut allergies, so it's not a commonplace. But I really do enjoy the texture that walnuts will bring to. It has to be walnuts though. Now that I'm thinking about it, you can't add anything. Like don't put an almond in a walnut. That's disgusting. Wal
Like anybody would do that?
Walnuts are nothing else. You know what? There's a lot of things I didn't think people would do with their food, but without naming
Hmm.
names, it's you. Someone somewhere probably has been like, this brownie needs almonds.
No, no one's done that before. If you're putting nuts in a brownie, it's either going to be a pecan or a walnut. I don't think you would put almonds in it. For one, I say no nuts. I am a no nut kind of person. Please don't clip that.
Yeah,
I don't have an
I'm
allergy.
clipping that. You don't have a choice.
Thank you. I don't have an allergy to nuts. When you mentioned texture,
Mhm.
that's it for me. I can't handle the texture of nuts in anything.
Yeah, okay.
It kind of ruins the flavor of things. It's a very controversial topic
Sure.
in my household because my wife likes to put nuts in things and
Uh-huh.
I don't like nuts in things.
Uh-huh.
So whenever she makes like a pan of something, she usually sections off one area of it with no nuts, and it's usually assigned for
Sure, that's
me.
the
I guess
the slacky
yes,
portion.
yes, that's the my part of it, and everybody else can eat it with the nuts, but I will not eat it with the
And that's
nuts.
fine.
I just don't like
That's
it.
like that's a super subjective opinion thing. Like I'm not gonna I'll dunk on a lot of people for a lot of preferences, but something like that that's super minor where it's like I would prefer my brownie without walnuts. Like that's fine. I don't care.
Yeah,
But my argument here, as it stands and as it will stay, if you prefer the cosmic brownie that has walnuts over the cosmic brownie, like the true cosmic brownie, you're a loser. That's just
sure.
it. No one's no.
You just don't like
Yeah,
fun.
it's like you hate fun. You wear Fruit of the Loom tidy whities, and you're unhappy. That's just it. Eat the cosmic brownie with the little cosmic pieces on it. You'll be happier.
True. We would be remiss if we didn't mention oatmeal cream pies
Oatmeal cream
from Little
pies,
Debbie.
very good.
Yes.
I'm a big oatmeal cookie person. Oatmeal raisin cookie. I know raisins aren't everyone's jam, but oatmeal raisin cookies great. Oatmeal cream pie is just two oatmeal cookies with some more oil-based cream in the middle. You can't go wrong.
It's the only time you'll ever catch me eating an oatmeal cookie is an
Interesting.
oatmeal cream pie. I
Anti
hate
anti oatmeal
anti
cookie.
oatmeal. Yes. I just don't give me your oatmeal or whatever. I don't want it in a cookie. You mentioned raisins. I'm not a raisin person. Please keep your raisins out of everything. If you're putting raisins in like the Jello fruit salad, then you're a crazy person.
One. All right, hold on. I want to pause. Respectfully, what is a Jello fruit salad? You just said those words, and my body had a visceral reaction to Jello fruit salad. That's three words
What
that don't go near each other.
first of all, do you like Jello? Are you a Jello person?
I was a Jello person when I was two.
Okay. I mean,
Now
weren't we all?
Jello is an obstacle between me and real food.
Interesting. So really all Jello fruit salad is it's just like it's just Jello, but you take like a can of the mixed fruit, the one that has like the peaches and the pears
Uh
and
huh.
maybe the little cherries, and you
Fruit
just
cocktail.
mix that in. Yeah, you mix that in with the Jello, and then you can also, if you wanted to get super crazy with it, mix in a little Cool Whip with it. So it's kind of like a Jello with fruit, like the fruit cocktail, and mixed with the Cool Whip. It's
So
really good. It's
I'm thinking
just
about what you're describing to me, and visually, it doesn't sound good. This sounds like what you're describing may be akin to unicorn vomit.
mm,
On paper, all of these things sound good separately.
it must be a Southern thing because it's pretty. I wouldn't say common.
Okay.
I would maybe like about 10, 20 years ago
I
it
was
was
gonna say,
fairly common.
is this something that was just like a more traditional kind of like, look, we don't have anything but Jello and canned fruit.
Exactly.
This sounds like it might be the tail end of like Depression era food.
I think it also might have to do with the fact that I feel like Jello was really big in like the 80s
Sure.
and maybe even into the 90s. I think it's kind of fallen off a lot
Yeah,
since the turn of the century
for obvious reasons,
because
Jello has lost a lot
it's
of
Jello.
popularity.
My wife does not like Jello. She doesn't like the texture. She's just 100% out on it. I love Jello. I think it's great.
I'm not gonna if someone hands me Jello,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna eat it because there's a 99% chance as an adult being handed Jello, there's alcohol in it, and I don't want that. But I don't think I've ever been like, I'm in the mood for Jello.
Yeah,
I will accept Jello that has like fruit in it, I guess. But again, I really don't want it. If I'm eating it, it's because I want the fruit, and the
right.
Jello is just the vessel that the vessel which with which I can get the fruit.
The fruit is being delivered to. Yeah, if also real quick, if you're over the age of 30 and you're doing Jello shots, you need to re-examine your life.
I don't think I've ever seen people have more fun than doing jello shots. Jello shots look fun. I think that if I consumed libations, I would want to exclusively consume via jello shot. It doesn't matter what it is. Jello shots just look fun. People that so the same people who prefer the cosmic brownie,
Yeah.
those people still like jello shots. Jello shots
No,
look
no,
fun.
no. The people who like Jello shots are the ones who can't get out of their 20s and are like approaching 40, and they still think that Jello shots are cool. Ugh, I,
I will
I
offer a
can't see it.
compromise.
I can't see it.
A compromise. People who partake in no more than 3 jello shots. If someone has 5 empty jello shots in front of them, they might have a problem. We might need
Yeah,
to be like, "Hey,
it's this.
maybe you don't need a gallon of jello." But
It's the scene. It's the scene in Friends. I don't know if you're familiar with this. If you watched Friends, there's a
not
scene
offhand.
where Chandler, apparently they're having a party and they're like, "Where's the Jello shots?" And Chandler's walking around with a tray and they're
Mhm.
all empty and he's just completely sauced because he
Yeah, see,
has eaten
that's
every
an issue.
single one of them.
But like two or three, and not like in rapid fire succession, but like 2 or 3, like, ooh, this is a fun little thing. It just looks like a fun time for everyone involved. Unless again, you're someone who is on their 5th in a row, then you need to go sit outside with some water.
True. Most of the time, Jello shots are made with Everclear, which is like 100% alcohol.
2 or 3.
I've seen
2
them
or
made with
2 or 3 is
seen them made
my
with vodka. But
2
most
or
of the time, if you're gonna bake a traditional Jello shot, you're gonna make it with the strongest alcohol you can find. And yeah, 2 or 3 is
2 or
probably
3 is
what
my
your limit needs to
compromise.
be.
If you have
Yeah,
more than 3, you've left the fun zone and now it's the cry for help zone.
yes.
But that's
It's
not
the
what
give me your
we're
keys
yeah,
zone.
that's not what we're here for. So enough about Jello and Jello related things. With Valentine's Day freshly behind us, freshly is in relative terms now that I'm looking at the calendar.
Yep.
I am completely weighed down by discount chocolate, and I think chocolate is a big portion of February's food intake as a whole for pretty much everybody, no matter how many partners you do or do not have. Where do you stand on the general line of chocolate? Are you a chocolate kind of person?
I do enjoy chocolate. It kind of depends on the type of chocolate we're talking.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like dark chocolate.
Okay.
I think it's too bitter for me.
Okay.
I'm more of a milk chocolate kind of person.
Sure.
I don't really have a preference. It's not like I choose one brand, like whether like I'm a Hershey's or Nestle. To me, chocolate kind of all tastes the same.
Okay.
Um, but when it comes to chocolate, yeah, I'm not a dark chocolate fan.
Okay, I'm in a very close boat. I may not be in your exact boat, but our boats are very close to each other. My preference is typically anything but dark chocolate, but every once in a while I do like just a little like dark chocolate coated something. Anything
Hmm.
that's coated with dark chocolate is usually something that I'll like. I just don't like plain dark chocolate by itself. Plain milk chocolate or plain white chocolate, I can get funky with. And for the 3 people who are seething because I said white chocolate, I know it's not real chocolate, it's cocoa fat. You don't have to tell me. I know already. I'm going to keep calling it white chocolate, and it's the same as the nut milk people. I know it's not milk by definition. I don't care.
Well, white chocolate in terms of like the United States, a lot of products that are deemed quote unquote white chocolate is actually more of a white chocolate flavor
Mhm.
because they don't go through that process of what you talked about, the cocoa fat, the cocoa butter
Mhm.
of producing the white chocolate. They're lazy on it and they just flavor it
Yeah, why
as
wouldn't you?
white chocolate. Obviously, it's America. We're lazy about everything,
Yeah.
you know? And to be honest, and to the point where it's like the FDA didn't even recognize white chocolate until 2002
Mhm.
because there was a catch. In order to be classified as white chocolate, it had to contain at least 20% of the cocoa butter. So people were like, yeah, we're not going through that process. We're just going to flavor it as white chocolate, which is one of the reasons why people don't really like white chocolate. because people don't really like things that are flavored a certain way, like
Sure.
strawberries versus strawberry flavor something. There's a big difference between
Banana,
those
I
two.
think banana is probably the biggest culprit in the
Yeah.
banana, delicious. Banana flavor, putrid.
This is
Grape,
a ran yeah,
grape
this is a
falls in,
random.
yeah, well, this is super far off, but grape falls in kind of the
Right.
same. Natural grapes, delicious.
Yes,
Grape
yes.
flavoring, horrible. Anyway, chocolate.
I have to say this. I do love grape flavoring. Banana flavoring
Get
is
away.
the worst.
You're off the
Any kind of
podcast.
any kind of
If anyone
any
else
kind of
wants to be
banana
on the
flavor.
podcast,
Let me just get this out. Any kind of banana flavor is absolute garbage. If you're
yes.
talking candy like banana runts,
Yep.
the worst candy of all time. Throw it in the garbage.
If I think of fake banana, I immediately go to banana runts, and I
Yep.
know that it's the worst flavor
The
in the world.
worst.
I think I would actively rather eat like a big gulp of capers than eat a banana run, a single banana run.
I'm with you on that. I'm gonna pull us back into chocolate land here because we went on a super tangent
That's
there.
a mini tangent. It's fine.
Yeah. So when it comes to chocolate, especially with milk chocolate,
Hmm.
here in America, we're crazy. The minimum cocoa mass for United States for milk chocolate is 10%, which leaves them the space to add in things like sugar, milk fats, and whatnot, which is why our chocolate in the United States is so much sweeter than any other place in the world
And it's delicious.
compared to like Canada where the minimum cocoa mass is 25%. In Europe it's 35%, which
Hmm.
is why people over there on the other side of the pond, I guess you could call it, their chocolate is so much more bitter. Their chocolate is more, I guess, chocolatey and
Yeah, that
less
makes sense.
sugary, which is why when they come over here and they eat our chocolate, it's like, wow, this is too sweet. I can't do this.
Yeah. So with that in mind, Katie recently went on a small excursion. I don't know how far away it was that sells actual like European, and I
Mhm.
think it's a specifically English shop. So she came home with a whole bunch of different authentic English and other European like chocolates and candies and things like that. And the
Right.
taste is so different. And it's
Yeah.
honestly, it's like I can't go back. I don't think I'm not going to be able to eat regular like Nestle's anymore, which
Yeah.
not a huge loss.
True.
In terms of like snacking candy, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm more of a gummies and like hard candies person.
Hmm.
If I'm gonna eat chocolates, it's probably gonna be like M&Ms. I'm a big M&Ms guy. I can't really think of
Plain,
an instance.
plain,
Peanut,
plain or peanut?
peanut.
Peanut.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm
You.
not a 4-year-old. That was the sigh
Uh,
of someone who is a 4-year-old.
100%. I prefer the plain. I'm
Um,
head in hand, shaking my
I
head. My
can't I
head.
can't get
I
down with the all the wacky flavors like oh well like peanut butter M&Ms are
caramel,
not good.
almond,
Reese's Pieces great. Peanut
brownie,
butter M&Ms not good. The pretzel M&Ms are okay. They just feel like cheap Whoppers.
crispy.
Yeah, I'm not here for it. I just give me a peanut M&M or give me a gallon jug of mini M&Ms so
Hmm.
I can just chug them.
Yeah. The minis are good.
And they come
The
in the perfect dispenser in
the
that,
tube.
yeah, a tube because it's
Yes.
exactly mouth size. I can pop the top, feel like a cool guy, shotgun a tube of
You
mini M&Ms and then immediately get a stomach ache.
you and the
It's
kiddo are in the same
it's
boat. He loves the mini
it's
M&Ms.
designed for optimal intake.
Yes, it really is. I don't know where we were.
Just chocolate in general.
Yeah. But you're right. I think here in America, based on the fact that our chocolate is so much sweeter
Mhm.
because we don't have to use, or I guess we don't have to is not the right phrase. The fact that we just don't use as much cocoa as the rest of the world because we're, here as American, this is so American. We're just going to do things the way we want to do.
Yeah.
And they put so
We're
much
gonna do
sugar.
things the way that it's the cheapest to do it.
Exactly, probably because it's cheaper that way to do it. It's true. Our chocolate is so sweet. Kit Kats and Nestle Crunch bars and whatever, all the Snickers. The chocolate is so sweet
Now,
compared to
see, now I'm
every
just thinking
every
about
other place in the
chocolate.
world.
I'm going to get candy as soon as I'm done with this. Like I'm going to the store and I'm going to buy some Kit Kats now that I'm thinking about it.
It makes me want to try. I've never really tried any of like the chocolate from like other places of the world, like Europe
I will see. I
or
know there are some websites
mm,
that aren't like Amazon. Like there's actual websites that you can get like export or import
right.
export um
And
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 we also have a
I'm
plethora of friends who could probably assemble
it's
some
true.
form of care package.
That's true. I also feel like in trying these other chocolates from around the world, I'm probably gonna find it way too bitter. Like I mentioned before, I don't like dark chocolate, and I feel like that's kind of more along the lines of what it's gonna taste like, a very more bitter, less sweet chocolate flavor. Um, and it's like the difference between drinking sweet tea and unsweet tea, you know?
Sure.
It's I don't know if I can handle it. I don't like sweet tea, which is crazy. I like unsweet tea, but
I genuinely think that the the difference in bitterness isn't what you'll notice. It's just
right.
a little it's just less sweet. I think like genuinely, I think you would like non-American chocolates more because you can taste more of the actual like ingredients that are in it. Like you get a much more chocolatey flavor. Like we had flake bars and they were really really good. You had a lot of really good taste to it, but it wasn't just like jam packed with like sugar, sugar, sugar. It didn't have an
Yeah.
overly sweet taste or leave like a weird aftertaste because it's just so artificially sweetened.
I mean, that makes sense. And I know we'll probably get into this topic a little bit more next month. Hint, hint, teaser, teaser.
Wink, 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 wink. Absolutely, and we'll save the bulk of this conversation, I think, for next month. All right, so with candy done, I think we can agree. Uh, Fruity, chewy candies are just better. Chocolate, great. Fruity, chewy candy is better.
Yeah.
And I want to let that just rest there. This seems like a pretty good common ground. Everyone likes chewy candy and fruity candy, but we also like chocolate. That's pretty standard. So I think we can move on from there. So the last major thing that we have on our docket today is the obvious pink elephant in the room. I don't know, pink elephant feels weird, but the obvious pink elephant in the room, and that is Valentine's Day. Do you guys do anything for Valentine's Day?
We well, I have the problem for me, and this might be a problem mainly because my wife and I have been together for a very long time. I went I went too big too early. You
Okay.
know, when it comes to Valentine's Day, like after like when we were dating and the first couple years of marriage, I kind of went all out. I did like the gifts and the chocolate and the date nights.
Mm-hmm.
And then as time goes on, as the relationship goes on, you kind of tend to things, I wouldn't say degrade, but it just kind of tends to,
Sure. You wanna keep it simple.
right. To the point where I would say about 3 or 4 years ago, she was quite frustrated that I wouldn't do anything glamorous for Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm.
So in the end, I think a couple of years ago we decided that we keep it super low key.
Sure.
And so this year we got heart-shaped pizzas, and we watched a movie in the house, and I will say I did buy her probably the biggest bouquet of flowers
But you
to send to her office. But
see,
here's the
but
key, guys.
that's
I'm wait,
nice.
time out. Chance, I gotta call time out here. This is the key, guys. If you're listening and you have a significant other and she works in an office setting, this is what you do. You buy the flowers and you have them delivered to her office so everybody else in the office can see the flowers being delivered to her and they can all be jealous because she has a stable relationship.
That's what you do. Make
100%.
make everyone feel bad that they don't have a relationship as good as you. I want to preface that, not preface, post fist. I don't know. I want to follow that up
What?
with the opposite of preface, post fist. Come on, follow me here.
Uh,
What
I
I'm
don't know
saying,
about that one.
I don't know. What's the opposite of preface?
Postscript?
That sounds worse. Post fist it is.
Better
Anyway,
than fist.
it's not fist. It's fist. FACE.
I think you're making stuff up.
Right? Spell the word preface for me.
No.
Good. I think it might also be I don't know how to spell preface off the top of my head. Now I'm thinking about it. Nobody worry about it. Anyway, don't
Ah,
actually do that. Don't make other people feel bad because you have a good relationship, but do be mindful of your partner's wants and needs. So like I know that Katie does not want flowers,
right.
because flowers will die, and instead of flowers, like a small plant or something like that that we can kind of take care of, put somewhere on a nice shelf, let it be happy, like a little succulent or something like that. Great idea. I think if I was like, here's all these flowers, it'd be like, cool, these are gonna die in 4 days. That does sound like going back to your movie and your heart shaped pizzas. Heart shaped pizza tastes better, common knowledge.
100%.
But that sounds nice. Like we went on like a nice simple little a little dinner date. We're just busy, generally speaking. So a nice little dinner date was good. I think it hit all the bases.
Yeah.
I got like a little thing of candy, stuff like that. Simple things. I think I think you're hitting the nail on the head with like keeping things simple
Right.
is a good way to go, because if you don't want to run into the slacky dilemma of going too big too fast, because then you've set the bar and the precedent of your minimum expectation for next time, and you're gonna hit a point where you just physically cannot go any bigger.
Right.
You're gonna set yourself up for not failure. I don't want to use the word failure, but you're gonna set yourself up for a problem.
Dis- the word you're looking for is disappointment, which is the
What?
one thing you don't want.
Disappointment like that also sounds too drastic. But my point is also, like, just communicate. We talked
Right.
about this was ultimately the exact same advice that we had last month, when it was like, hey, what do you bring to a Super Bowl? Well, why don't you
Yeah.
communicate with that person and see what they need? The same thing here. If you want to do a nice surprise thing for like a date night or something like that, that's great. Make sure, one, they like surprises.
My partner loves surprises. The problem is my wife is really good at sniffing things out.
I think it might also be that you're not very good at hiding things, which is
She
a
would
good trait.
probably agree with you. She would agree with you, yes.
I have the issue where I like surprising people, but I get more excited about the surprise existing, that 9 times out of 10 I'm like, I got you a surprise. And Katie will just be like, "What?" And I'm like, "Yeah, do you want to know what it is? Like, do you want it now?" And it's like, "No. Don't tell me you got me a surprise. Don't tell me you surprised me." And also, now that I'm thinking about it, she likes surprises. She doesn't like knowing that there is a surprise coming. The looming dread of at some point something is going to happen, and it's dread because the unknown
Mhm.
factor is what causes that dread. So I'm in the process of, just reminding myself that if I'm going to do a surprise thing, to keep it a surprise. There's some self-learning
Right.
and managing that has to happen there. I do want to talk about the place that we went, without going too far into it and making this a commercial for this place that we went.
Hashtag sponsored.
Yeah, hashtag sponsored. We went to this place for a different family event, and we knew immediately that we were coming back. I had posted some, I think I posted some pictures from this place, I think, from the food that we had. But like, hands down, right, like the second you walk in the door, there's a guaranteed menu item you have to have. It's almost like if you were making focaccia bread but with pizza dough, and it's just like a fried pizza dough, but it's that, and it comes with a jar of, it's just ricotta
Oh
cheese
wow.
and honey, and it's layered. Oh, it's so good. And it's just like, here's a pallet of just
Goodness.
good bread and cheese and honey. Everything they have is really good. And it's like, I'm looking at the pictures now just so I can remember what we had, and I'm like, oh, I'm drooling. What do I do? Yeah, I could go to this place every day, honestly.
Ready to go back.
I'd probably not live very long, because a lot of the food is really, like, it's really good, rich food. Man, some of that food, like, that's
Yeah.
on my list of, like, because it's not like an overly fancy place. Like, we were dressed like nicely, like I had a button up shirt, but like there were the people at the table next to
Right.
us just had, like, they were out and about doing stuff kind of clothes on. If you and the missus make it out to
That
this
makes sense.
side of the country at any point, there's a good chance that this is on the list of places we would go. And they don't have anything that is too spicy, but I don't think they serve ranch. So we can bring you some like a shooter of ranch.
That sounds amazing. A shooter of ranch. It's sipping ranch. Uh,
I hate it. I
I
hate
think
the
the
idea of
difference.
sipping ranch.
I think that the difference between you and me when it comes to date nights is one very key ingredient, and for us, it's the 10-year-old. It's really hard
Don't eat the
for.
10-year-old.
No,
Don't call your
that's not
child an ingredient on a food podcast,
it's not
please.
even ingredient. It's not an ingredient. What I'm trying to explain here is that it's hard for us to have an impromptu, and I know
Sure.
Valentine's Day is typically not an
Yeah,
impromptu date
yeah,
night.
it's
It's
not really
something
a
you should be
it's not
planning.
a spur of the moment holiday.
It's also really hard when it comes to Valentine's Day, especially when it falls like on a weekday, like a Tuesday.
Yeah,
It's hard for us to plan a date night
sure.
when we need to make plans to do something with the child.
Hmm.
So typically, whenever we do a date night, we usually, I wouldn't say go all out, but we try to do things that we haven't done in a while. Where it's,
Yeah,
what to me, one of the worst dates is going to see a movie because you don't get a chance to actually talk to your date. You're just sitting there.
that is a date for high school children.
Yeah.
That is what's the best way to be near somebody and not have to talk to them. Like if you are an established couple or something like that, I think a movie is a good thing to go and do, but I don't consider that a date. At a,
For
at a
me,
certain point, it's just you're
yeah,
just going to the movies.
a movie is more of a group thing. I think you get
Sure.
a group of like, 5 or 6 or maybe even more, and you all go together to see a movie together. But going back to the topic of date, I think my wife's like, if you would poll her on her favorite restaurants here in town, I'd say about 90% of them would be Mexican. She loves Mexican food. And I'm all for it too.
Hmm.
Chips, we've discussed this, in the previous podcast. I'm a big queso guy, chips and salsa and queso. I could
Sure.
go all day on it. And so most of the time, our date nights just involve us being just us, not
Hmm.
having to worry about the kiddo, not have to worry about the fur babies.
Yeah.
Just be out in an environment where we can kind of be, where we can be exclusive and just
Yeah.
talk about whatever it is going on. And to me, that's like the perfect date night, is just to be able to, even if not just a restaurant, but like there's a couple places in town where it's like like a brewery where you can go
Sure.
and sit down outside and have like a couple of drinks.
Yeah, and
uh,
it literally boils down to the simplest factor of like
yeah,
the where is not important. And this is
right.
I think this will be our like our our leave off note for everybody. The where you are and where you go is not nearly as important as the who you are there with. And
True.
I think that's lyrics from something, and but I'm not like ripping a lyric, I promise.
Michael Bolton song.
Yeah, it's something cringy, I'm sure. If you've made it this far, thanks for listening. Be sure to say happy birthday to Slacky in the comments. We'll be back next month to explore some international foods as well as some regional favorites with a very special guest. This has been the Fat Pants Podcast.